Hey, it's Marko here from Fair Realty, Victoria, BC. Today I'm going to talk about my personal observations pertaining to the rental market in Victoria, and are we going to see further downward price pressure on rents in Victoria? So first of all, I live in Vic West. I love to walk around, and recently Bosa, a developer from Vancouver, built 3 towers in my neighborhood. 2 were strata condo, the third one was an apartment building, and I've been walking by this apartment building ever since it was completed 18 months ago. And 18 months later, there's still vacant units that have not been rented in 18 months. They've filled up most of the building from what I can see based on items on the balcony, but 18 months into it, they still have vacant units, which means the absorption is really low. Today, I went on rentals.ca. I looked at that specific building. I'm going to post it here on the screen. In that building, 18 months later, they still have studios, 1 bedrooms, 1 bedroom and dens, 2 bedrooms. And sure, maybe a few of these are tenant turnover, but I've physically seen vacant units for the last 18 months. So absorption is low. When I drive around Victoria, and I drive around every day showing properties in various parts of the city, there's a ton of purpose-built rentals under construction right now, specifically on the West Shore. There's developments I drive by on the West Shore. It looks like they might have 200, 300, 400 units coming up for rent in the next 6 to 12 months. And I'm not an expert on this matter. This is obviously very complicated. There's a lot of factors, such as the federal government's cutback immigration, which is slowing population growth. But my gut feel tells me that there isn't a market for thousands of studios and 1-bedroom units and small 2-bedroom units on the West Shore that go for $1,700 for a studio, $2,100 for a 1-bedroom, $2,800 for a small 2-bedroom. There can't be thousands and thousands of people out there that are going to fill that void. I think the absorption rate is going to be low, and I think we could definitely see price pressure, downward price pressure on studios on the West Shore, 1-bedrooms on the West Shore, and the smaller 2-bedrooms on the West Shore. When it comes to other product, such as single-family homes, I don't think we're going to see too much downward price pressure on rents for single-family homes. A lot of the phone calls I'm getting this year are from ma and pa investors that are selling off their single-family home rental properties. And when I sell these single-family home rental properties, guess what? The buyer is almost always an end user right now. So I think the inventory of single-family homes for rent is going to shrink because it's not being replaced. Who is building purpose-built rental single-family homes? That doesn't exist, and if it does, put a comment in the comments section. All that's being built is smaller apartments for rent. So I think the single family home rental market's probably going to fare a bit better, but once again, I could definitely see downward pressure, specifically on the West Shore, as thousands and thousands of units come for rent in the next 6 to 24 months. As someone who owns a number of rental properties in Victoria, am I personally concerned? Absolutely not, because most of my tenants, I was just looking at my lease agreements the other day, were like from 2020, 21. Right now, if I looked at my rental properties, if any one of my tenants gave notice, I would be re-renting for substantially more. For example, I have a unit in Vic West, a 1-bedroom I'm renting for $1,750 a month. That was a tenant from 2020 that's still there. The building I was talking about that Bosa built, that they've been having issues with absorption, they're asking $2,100 for a studio without parking. They're asking $2,500 for a 1-bedroom. So I have a 1-bedroom at $1,750. If my tenant moved out, realistically, I can easily re-rent that for $2,300. So is it a soft rental market? It is. Should landlords panic? No, because most landlords are renting below market rates anyway, depending on when they rent it out to that tenant. The only people that should really panic are perhaps over-leveraged investors that have hundreds and hundreds of units coming up, or landlords that have recently rented out their units at high market rents and they're over-leveraged, and then they might have an issue if their tenant gives notice. They have to go back and re-rent at a lower amount. Those people, but I think the types of landlords are in the minority. Most landlords are in my position, where despite the rental market being soft and rents trending down a bit, if they had to re-rent, they would be re-renting at a higher figure. That's it for this week. Marko, Juras, Fair Realty.